Hey, it's Dougie from Valto. We do offer a free consultation as well if you're looking at moving your Microsoft 365 tenancy, and you can use the link below as well to get in contact with us. So, starting off at number one, we're talking about defining the scope. Now, we always start off by running a series of workshops with our customers to understand what it actually is you're trying to migrate. Some people, they're trying to do it because they're trying to merge two organizations together. Maybe you've going through some sort of transition where a company's purchased your company or you've purchased another company and you're trying to move to Microsoft 365's tenants together. Typically, this can look like moving mailboxes, SharePoint sites, but there's also a whole host of other things, maybe like Power Apps and other things you might not yet have considered that needs to be part of that migration process. The next step would be to gather some information. Before you start doing any further planning, you need to find out about your current setup. What typical users you've got, what usage of SharePoint and OneDrive and storage spaces are being used, as well as any other applications that the business is reliant on. Next, you want to be considering what Microsoft 365 licenses are you using. Now, this is a fantastic time to actually do an audit of all the licenses to see which licenses you will actually need in your next tenant. Now, this is obviously quite often a case of looking through the different usages and actually are the licenses actually being used to their full potential? Do you need them anymore? And whether or not in the next tenants you will need to still be paying for them. So it's a cost saving exercise. Now, Valto also offer a free license audit, so we can look through the licenses and make sure you're getting the best price for them. After that, start considering your communication planning. Now, this can be a whole series of different types of communications that you're keeping different stakeholders informed. Quite often, this might be you're part of the IT department, and at first stages, you're looking to just inform the IT team what it is that you're expecting. But there's going to be wider communications as well. Now, you might want to be planning emails, but also Microsoft Teams messages or even messages inside of Viva Engage. The core things is you want to make sure that everyone knows what is happening, when key milestones are going to happen, and how it's important. Well, most importantly, how it's going to affect them. So, quite often, as part of the communication planning, is there's going to be different messages going out to people to tell them exactly what's going to be impacting them. From your frontline workforce of where they're going to be logging in to IT departments to let them know they're going to be receiving certain support requests and tickets and how they should be going about troubleshooting them. Permissions and dependencies. Now, this is where you should be looking at who has access to what and make sure everything will work the same when it goes over to the new tenant. Now, this is actually considering multiple different aspects. You've got Microsoft 365 admin roles, so things like global admin, SharePoint admins, things like that you're going to be needing to look at. Also, you've got things like SharePoint permissions, so who has access? Do the same people still need access? That again, this is a fantastic opportunity to do a bit of an audit, and you might find there's some people that might have left that you need to kind of replace as a content owner of SharePoint sites and things like that. Um, and that brings me on to point six, which is actually finding those content owners, because it's a really vital time to be looking at. Okay, maybe if you're in a real hurry for some reason, you might be looking at almost doing a what I refer to copy and paste migration, where literally all the SharePoints, documents, and things like that come over in one swoop, and they're all exactly the same. But again, treat this as an opportunity to rebuild better, learn from the kind of mistakes, the pitfalls, the areas that documents are just getting dumped and not really being properly categorized, and look at that and build a new structure. So by starting by looking for the content owners, you can engage with them to find out what the best way would be moving forward to structure your document management. Then you might want to consider provisioning your new Microsoft 365 tenant that you're going to be migrating to. This setup often will include adding in domains, and there's a lot of considerations around DNS and setting up the mailboxes and things like that. You also want to be considering creating admin accounts that are going to be used for the actual migration. So, depending on what you're migrating and how much you're migrating, will depend on the different pathways that you go for that particular migration. But typically, you will always need an admin account, like a service account, which is going to act as the physical account, which is moving your documents, your mailboxes from point A to point B. Then in step 8, I would be considering backups. If you don't currently have a Microsoft 365 backup tool, then there's a range of backup tools that we can help recommend to you dependent on your requirements. But you do need to make sure you've got a backup in place. Migrations aren't risk free. So you want to be looking for ways to mitigate potential issues where things don't migrate properly or get corrupted during migration. And you don't want to just lose them completely. This is where a backup is really useful, so you can always get data back if if the worst was to happen. Then we're getting closer to our migration. We want to start assessing the different migration tools which are available to us. And this is where we can choose tools that are going to help us transfer data quickly and safely, which are best fitting your specific requirements. As I say, there's a whole host of different products out there, and it can be quite a large task to review all of these. Whereas if you speak to Valto, we can help choose and guide you to the best migrational tool that's going to fit your specific migration requirements. And finally, engage a Microsoft partner. We work. Why not work with our experts here at Valto who can guide you through the entire process from start to finish to ensure success and make your life that much easier. We're here to make sure you're properly supported through the whole process and you get a successful migration. We also offer support packages afterwards to make sure that you're fully supported and you will always have someone to call if you have any questions. You can get in contact with us via the link in the description below.